all this noise going on, banging and voices. No one could really work out where it was coming from. And the next thing everyone knew, a head popped up just out of the floor here. So you can stand up and come down if you want to see it better, but please don't fall in. We'll never do doors open again if someone falls in there. This is, we call it the trap door, and this used to be how custodies were brought up from the cells. So on that particular day, an accused individual who was down in the cells had thought he would make the great escape from it, and regrettably for him chose the staircase that led right into the middle of an ongoing court.
I don't think it was called yet, so if you could just... 3:15, okay.
Wait,
So
here,
shouldn't be long. How many tickets? 3?
Sorry. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
There you go, that's your 3 tickets there. Do you want me to write the time on there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ja.
Nice, thank you. Boyd.
There's a lot of pasta.
I never knew. You do.
Obviously.
Just take a seat wherever you like.
Nice, thank you. Boyd.
There's a lot of pasta.
I never knew. You do.
Obviously.
Just take a seat wherever you like.
We would like to thank you all for taking part in Doors Open Day this year, and we hope that you enjoyed the tour. We will do our best to answer any questions that you might have as we go along. So we'll just go over some housekeeping details. There's no scheduled fire alarms today, so if the alarm does sound, you just follow myself or Laura to the nearest exit. Please feel free to take photos during the tour. This is not normally allowed, but we've been granted special permission for today only by our Sheriff Principal. However, we would ask that for security reasons you do not take any pictures in the cell block. And lastly, there is some stairs involved in the tour, so if anyone feels they may have difficulty with this, then please just let one of us know and we'll arrange access to the lift. So getting started, Aberdeen Sheriff Court is the third busiest court in Scotland and is the busiest court in our sheriffdom, which is Grampian, Highland and Islands. Scotland is split into 6 sheriffdoms, which includes Grampian, Highland and Islands, Tayside, Central and Fife, Lothian and Borders, North Strathclyde, South Strathclyde, Dumfries and Galloway, and Glasgow and Strathkelvin. So Grampian, Highlands and Islands is the largest sheriffdom in Scotland and spans from Fort William to Stornoway and Aberdeen to Lerwick on either side. Here in Aberdeen we have 6 resident sheriffs and 2 summary sheriffs. Our Sheriff Clerk is in charge of the court and has over 70 members of staff who are all civil servants employed by the Scottish Courts and Tribunal Service. So Aberdeen, we deal with many different types of business, and that includes criminal business from the Justice of the Peace Court, which you will get a chance to see later on. Summary Sheriff Court and more serious solemn sheriff and jury business. You will also get the chance to vote and see a jury court as well. We have the High Court, which is based across the road in the Market Gate building, which opened in 2005. And we have our civil business, which includes simple procedure, divorces, adoptions, amongst many other stuff. And that's all based at our dedicated civil court building on Queen Street. We also deal with fines collection and fines enforcement.
The room that you're in at the moment, this is known as Court 1, and this houses the main summary criminal court. As Emma said, you'll get the opportunity to see other courtrooms today. Across the corridor in Court 2, that's the Justice of the Peace Court, and you'll also see Court 6, which at the moment is a dedicated sheriff and jury court. This court is probably the most traditional and the one you'd sort of recognise the look of if you're into courtroom dramas. I suppose the other rooms are a little bit more modern now. This court can see up to 100 cases in a day. It deals with sentencing matters, amongst other things, and also any custodies. So any people who are arrested and charged by the police and kept overnight for court, they will appear in this courtroom here, unless it is a Justice of the Peace Court matter, and then they would go across the hall to the Justice of the Peace Court. The court starts at 10 and usually runs until about 4 or 5 o'clock. But as this court is a custody court, this court will sit until the bodies in the building are processed. So we'll sit until 8 or 9 o'clock if necessary. So that involves staff staying until 8 or 9 o'clock, as you can imagine. Luckily that's not all that common, but it certainly has happened in the past. All courtrooms have a similar setup. Where I am right now, this is called the well of the court. If you come and watch criminal court business going ahead, the person on this side is the Procurator Fiscal, and the person on the other side is the Defence Agent. The Clerk of Court sits up here on that seat there. The Clerk of Court will call the cases, record what is happening, and deal with all the court minutes. The dock is in front of me. We've got a 4 accused case today, so I'm not quite sure what happened last night, but obviously it was quite serious. The rest of you are in the public gallery. If you look above and behind you, you'll see that there is a balcony in this courtroom. It's not used anymore because of health and safety reasons, but you can imagine if the court was full, how many people it can actually take in here. Behind me is the bench. That's where the sheriff sits. Anyone want to be a sheriff today? Okay, go on then, come on. sheriff, so we're able to actually start this court today and find out what you lot were up to last night. You'll see here in court when the sheriff comes on the bench, everyone's asked to stand up. You'll also see that court staff and solicitors will bow. It's commonly thought that we're bowing to the sheriff. We're not. We're actually bowing to the crest, which is up there. So you'll see a crest in every courtroom. The crest has the unicorn for Scotland and the lion for England and reads Nemo me impunit lascit. Anyone's Latin good? No, we are struggling with this one today. It means nobody attacks me with impunity, and it has been the Scottish motto since before the Union. The crest there, as you'll see in all the courtrooms, that represents the Crown, and all sheriffs are appointed by the King. Our sheriff today will have certain options for sentencing these four for whatever it is they've done. So those sentencing powers include a financial penalty, you might see that being handed out in court, also a community payback order, that can be unpaid work in the community, and also supervision orders, restriction of liberty orders can be handed out as well. That is commonly called tagging. So where someone is required to be at home between particular hours of the day, they would wear a tag, and if they step out of their home within those hours, an alert is sent that they've breached it. The other option for the sheriff is imprisonment as well. So I don't know what you were thinking.
I don't know, it looks like a guilty bunch, this too, the
There you go. Tried and convicted all within the space of a few minutes.
The fastest here in ever.
This courtroom has in the past been used as a jury court. The jury box is there. It was last used as a jury court about 7 or 8 years ago. I don't know if people recall when HMP Grampian in Peterhead opened. Not long after it opened, there was a riot, and a number of people were on trial for their part in that riot. Because there were so many accused, this was the only courtroom that could actually take them. So this dock was removed, and the whole of the front row became the dock. I think if I remember rightly, there was 10 people on trial for that. This courtroom has seen other famous cases. If you're older, you might recall the Garvey murder trial. That took place in 1968. It was very, very popular, I believe. People queued all the way up Union Street for the chance to come in and watch it. All of the public benches were full, bottom and top, and it was considered, I think, quite a good day out in 1968 to come and find out what was happening. I won't tell you the background of the trial, small ears, but if you want to go and listen about it, there's a good podcast about it. It might explain why there's so much interest in it in 1968. Maybe it wouldn't be the sort of thing that would get so much interest these days, but in 1968 it certainly did. I'll get you down from there now. Would you like the beat? Yeah. Let's get it. As you can imagine, working in the court, and a lot of us have worked here for a lot of years, we all have our stories about funny things that might have happened or interesting things that might have happened. The most famous story, though, is one that's told by one of our colleagues who was clerking a court. He tells the story that he was clerking the court and everything was going fine, and then suddenly there's all this noise going on, banging and voices. No one could really work out where it was coming from, and the next thing everyone knew, a head popped up just out of the floor here. So you can stand up and come down if you want to see it better, but please don't fall in. We'll never do doors open again if someone falls in there. This is, we call it the trap door, and this used to be how custodies were brought up from the cells. So on that particular day, an accused individual who was down in the cells had thought he would make the great escape from it, and regrettably for him chose the staircase that led right into the middle of an ongoing court. You'll see we don't use it anymore. Regrettably, we lost one down there. It's been a bad fall. It's not used anymore because of health and safety reasons. You'll see when you go down to the cells, you'll see the staircase that is used now for taking custodies up. I wouldn't say that's really any less steep than this, but that's the way now. So you'll see that when you go down to the cells. Okay, before you move on to the next part of the tour, does anyone have any questions? No? Okay, the next part of the tour is going to be down to the cell block. Linda's just going to come up to the top corner there, so if you just go back up to the same door you came in and we'll
She said you'll get to see it when we go down to the cell. Okay? Prison cells. All the prisons.
Very old files.
The guy tried to escape from the cells, tried to escape up from the floor.
And this is where the police agents come to make the little
Come there.
This is cells. Like in very soon. The tour before you are still Chapman. And then you're free to go. You don't want to put two after this? Or down the atrium?
You guys feel like it? Sorry. You feel like it?
Say 10 minutes when you get in. That would give you...
Cheers, I'm just letting.
Hi guys, come on in. You can either take a seat and be the jury, you can be the accused in the dock, or sit wherever you fancy.
Just checking. Sorry, guys. Thanks very much for coming along. I hope you weren't waiting too long. They are quite well organised with these tours, but it doesn't take too much for them to run over. It's usually me speaking for too long, which I think is why I put with the last tour. In this instance, so I'm not holding any of the other people up. My name is John Patterson. I'm one of the clerks in court. During the week, obviously, not on Saturdays. You've seen Court 1, you've seen the cells. This is quite a different court from Court 1. It's got all the same components, but very, very different. We deal with sheriff and jury cases in this courtroom, so a bit more serious than the kind of things that we would deal with in Court 1, where you've just been. I'll tell you a little bit about that shortly. Before I do, can anyone tell me how many jurors we have in the Scottish jury? Without counting the seats. 15, yeah, spot on. Most common answer to that is 12, which is of course the number of jurors you get in an English jury. So, yeah, we have 15. It helps us in some ways. We never have a hung jury. So there you go, obviously, because it's an odd number. We cite 150 people randomly for jury service from the electoral roll. Some of you, or one or two of you, have maybe been involved in some capacity as jurors at some point. When we come to the point of the jury trial, we used to ask everyone to attend on Monday morning. So sometimes 90, 100 people sometimes would be coming in, sit in public benches, and we would pick your names out. Both of you actually. I forget to tell people about this, but get everyone's names on little slips of paper, and we would do the jury ballot, pick the name out, call your name, and then in case of coming forward, take your seat in the jury box, call the next name, and so on until we had 15 people in the jury box. With COVID, it was seen that we couldn't really be asking large groups of people to come into a confined space and sit there for several hours. So the jury ballot took place in their absence instead, and that's actually something we still do. So if you're ever cited for jury service, you'll only be asked to come along if you've actually been balloted as a juror. So we do that every week. This is one of the courts that we use. We also use two courts across the road. One is a high court, and one is another jury court. It's the same drill, if you like. The layout of the court, just very briefly, we have got the jury box, which I've already mentioned. We're not quite got a full complement of jurors. We've got 13 out of 50 there. I'm noticing we have a full complement of accused. I would notice in the dock. It's not the biggest dock. Sometimes we do actually have cases where there's like 5 accused, and it's a bit of a challenge, to be honest, to fit everybody in. But the witness box is where I'm standing. I'm sat here because I can use a microphone for it, obviously, but witnesses will come in, give evidence in turn once the trial's up and running. As a clerk of court, I sit there in front of the sheriff normally, make sure everything is recorded, and most importantly is there, where the sheriff is seated. So the sheriff, as with Court 1, sits just underneath the coat of arms there. Are there any sheriffs or would-be sheriffs, people who would wish to assume the role of sheriff? No, there's a definite head shake there.
Do you want to be the sheriff?
It's fair. Yeah, brilliant. Can I just ask you to accompany my colleague?
We'll take you
That's
on
okay.
exactly how a normal sheriff.
Yeah.
You get to see the secret passage.
Right, so when the sheriff comes on, we'll come through this secret door, which you've probably all seen, and we'll stand. Which comes on.
Court, all rise.
And you sit down, the sheriff sat down, so you can sit down. So, sheriff comes on the bench. Any court you come along to see, that's what will happen in any of the courts. Sheriff comes on, everyone will request to stand. The sheriff sits, they'll sit down, and then when the court's adjourning, the same thing will happen in reverse, if you like. So the sheriff will stand up, they'll stand up, the sheriff will off the bench. So, same in all courts, but this is quite a good example of a courtroom to show you that. Just very briefly, to go off tangent a bit here, but the courtroom itself dates back to the 1870s. There was a banqueting hall which was leased from the Society of Advocates. We're just upstairs. It's got the look that it would have originally had. It's a listed building. It's a faithful enough recreation, I'm told, of how it would have looked at that time. At this point, we have obviously integrated technology, a lot of it in a not so subtle way. So it's a combination of the two things, I suppose, but it's hand stenciled wallpaper, and it's quite early, really. I mean, I work here all the time, obviously, and I kind of forget, because you get so used to your surroundings. Occasionally I look up and you think, you're reminded how nice it is, what a nice building it is, so it's kept quite well. Just very briefly about prosecution in Scotland. There's 4 levels, if you like. So to give you an idea of the context in which this court sits, I just need to tell you about how cases come to go in the first place. So basically the procurator fiscal, who is in charge of bringing cases to court and prosecution in Scotland, will receive a report from the police. They'll consider the report, they'll decide whether they are going to prosecute that case, and if they are, what level they're going to prosecute that at. So the lowest level is the JP court, and that would typically be more minor offences, you would say, so quite a lot of minor driving offences, maybe a minor breach of the peace, things like that. The step up from that is the summary criminal level, so that's the court you've just been in, Court 1, and they predominantly deal with all those cases. So that's a bit more serious, but not the most serious. A lot of driving offences and things like that. So I'll use the assault example. You'll get an assault case, typically at a summary criminal level. Step up from that is this level. So this is sheriff and jury, solemn business. So it's a bit more serious than that. So your assault in your Court 1 would be an assault, severe injury, would be permanent disfigurement, something like that, in this level. And then further still, you've got the High Court level, where that assault will probably be an attempted murder or something like that. So it's just elevating it to that, be that little bit more serious. Just to give you a really kind of blunt example, but there's all sorts of different things. And some cases can be, there's someone in the middle, you think, oh, I thought that might be an indictment, or there's various reasons. Sometimes the accused's record will mean that they're prosecuted at a slightly higher level because they've got that history of committing a particular offence or something like that. So those are the 4 levels, and that's where this court fits in. So this court will generally deal with sheriff and jury trials every week. I've referenced solemn business, so solemn is simply a step above what you would see in Court 1. So this level, also the High Court level, when those cases start, they will invariably be cases where the accused will appear in private on what's called a petition. One of the main reasons for that is that if a case eventually finds its way to be a High Court trial or a sheriff and jury trial, they need jurors who can be completely impartial. So if someone has read about that in the paper or heard something about it, then it might not be seen to be impartial. We want people coming in who don't know the first thing about the case for obvious reasons. So that's one of the reasons that's reported. If it is reported in the paper, it won't tell you a huge amount. It will just be the fact you don't appear for custody. He was released on bail, or he was remanded in custody, or something like that. So that's usually as much as you would read. So that's the reason for that. But ultimately, you will read about these cases, especially if they appear in the High Court, and exactly the sort of things that will be reported on, because they're the more interesting cases to read about, to be honest with you. The other question you forget to ask as well, can anyone tell me what the 3 verdicts are open to a jury in Scotland? I've just been a juror before.
Guilty, not guilty, not proven.
Yeah, that's it. So guilty, not proven. Guilty results in a conviction. In order for there to be a finding of guilty, there needs to be at least 8 of the 15 jurors in favour of that as a verdict. We can actually go down to as few as 12 jurors from the 15. Sometimes we'll lose people, some of them might become ill overnight or something like that. So we can go down to 12. but we still would need 8 people for an overall majority. That's how it works. So it's slightly in favour, I suppose, if you like, of the accused, but that seems to be the fairest way doing that. Not proven, not guilty of exactly the same effect. The accused is acquitted. It cannot be tried again. Not proven is a bit of a strange one. It's quite particular to Scottish law, and in essence, I suppose it dates back to times where the jury were like, well, we think you did it, but we can't quite prove it. But there's no difference. So there's been talk of getting rid of that as a verdict in the past, because there's no need for it in a way, but we still have it. So it's just one of those many little anomalies that you have in things like the law and legal system. So that's just one thing you'll hear, but it's the same, as I say, it's the same effect. The person is acquitted and they leave the dock. So
how often do you end up going?
quite a lot, to be honest. You'd be surprised. But yeah, quite a bit. But they could just be, they could just be, I mean, I suppose in the field the evidence is really isn't at all strong, then it might not guilty, you just don't, like, it's the same about, we do get more not guilty than not proven, I would say, overall, but we still get quite a few, but we're not privy to what discussions take place in the jury room, so we're never totally sure how we come to that verdict sometimes. Not that we try and predict it or anything, but you know, it can be unusual. Sometimes you get a case in the High Court that's taken ages and the jury will come back in 15 minutes with the verdict, and sometimes the opposite can be true. It just depends, totally different group of people, so the dynamic can be totally different in any group of jurors. It's not something I've ever done, I've never sat as a juror, I'm not allowed to, but it would be interesting just to see what the thought process was sometimes. I think, I was just going to say, you've got three options again, sticking with the sort of verdict thing. You've got 3 options after this. You can obviously head off, go to, you've got other buildings you want to see today. You can go to the atrium if you want, get another coffee or get coffee if you have a chance to do that. Or you can go to Court 2, where you can try on a gown, other photo opportunities. Are open to you there as well, as they are in here, I should say. Those are your options. If anyone wants to have a turn sitting up there, feel free to do so. But I would say we'll have another tour probably through here quite soon. So that's all I would say. If you get any questions, feel free to ask me. Court 2, sorry, I should have said Court 2 is used to the JP stuff actually, so that'll have given you almost the full picture. You see that, so it's the lowest level stuff. But we've just kitted it out today with gowns as a sort of additional court, if you like, an optional part of the tour. But yeah, that's what we use that for. Well, thanks guys. Hope we've enjoyed our tour.
Thanks so much.
Do you not get called?
Only opportunity.
Well, I just.
Thank you.
Yeah, both our parents are managers in oil offshore offices.
It's like a really nice house there.
Well off, let's just say.